Welcome to the Science of Hockey, the podcast where we break down the science behind ice hockey. I'm the analyst, your host, and every week we explore the data, research, and evidence that shape how we play, train, and understand the game of hockey. From biomechanics to performance psychology, we take you beyond the rink and into the research lab, giving you insights that go beyond hearsay and into what really makes the difference on the ice. Whether you're a player, a coach, a parent, or just someone passionate about the sport, we're here to bring you scientifically backed information in a language that's friendly and easy to understand. So grab your skates and let's dive into the science of hockey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Science of Hockey. I'm the analyst, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of lateral preferences in ice hockey. In this episode, we'll explore how handedness, footedness, and even eyedness influence a player's preference for shooting left or right in hockey. This study reveals some surprising patterns about how athletes' lateral preferences in daily tasks translate to their performance on the ice. Whether you're a player curious about your shooting style or a coach looking to understand player dynamics better, this episode will provide some eye-opening insights. So, lace up your skates, and let's dive into the science behind how we choose our shooting side in hockey.
All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something pretty cool.
Yeah.
You guys picked this topic. We're going to look at the connection between handedness and how people hold a hockey stick.
Fascinating stuff.
It is. And we've got a great source for this, a research article from PLOS1. The title's A Mouthful, Linking the Preference in a Bilateral Asymmetric Task with Handedness, Footedness, and Eyedness. The Case of Ice Hockey.
Kitschy.
It is catchy, yeah, from May 2024. And get this, one of the big surprises right off the bat, most right-handed people actually prefer to shoot left in hockey.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be the opposite, right? Like, use your strong hand for power.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So to get us started, what do we know about handedness generally?
Well, the study, it kind of lays out the baseline. You've got about 68% of people right-handed, 15% left-handed, and then that 16% who are ambidextrous.
Okay, so that's pretty much what you'd expect, right? Like general population kind of stuff.
Yeah, aligns with what we know, so
Okay.
Good starting point.
All right, so then they take this into hockey, right? They ask people how they like to hold the stick, and remember, left hand lower.
Yeah.
That means you're shooting left.
Right, yeah, classic stance.
And the results are, well, they're pretty wild. Over 70% of left-handed folks prefer to shoot right, and on the flip side, almost 66% of right-handers are going left.
Whoa, that's a lot of crossover, huh?
Big time, yeah. It's like our brains are doing a switcheroo on the ice.
It's that cross-lateral preference they talk about in the study, meaning your dominant hand, it's not the one doing the work down low on the stick.
Which, again, you'd assume it would be for that extra oomph.
Makes sense, but clearly something else is going on.
So the big question, why are so many players, going against the grain here?
Well, the researchers, they've got some thoughts. One idea is that it's learned, especially since the study was done in Canada, Hockey Central, right?
Oh, yeah, born with a stick in hand practically.
Exactly. So maybe all those years of watching, playing, it just kind of builds this preference.
So it's like ingrained from a young age almost.
Could be, yeah. But then wouldn't you think most Canadian golfers would be lefties too? Two-handed grip, similar idea.
Right, good point. So there's got to be something more to it.
I think so. Think about the fine motor skills in hockey, the stick handling, the puck control, all those tiny wrist movements.
Yeah, it's all about precision.
Right. So maybe having that non-dominant hand lower down, it actually gives you more of that fine-tuned control.
Okay, so it's not just about raw power. It's about having that touch, that finesse for those quick maneuvers.
Exactly.
And to really test this, the researchers, they looked at other stuff too, right? Like golf, baseball, even using tools like a rake or an axe.
Yeah, they wanted to see if this cross-lateral preference showed up elsewhere.
And what'd they find?
Well, with golf, there was a strong connection, but it was uncrossed. So if you golf right-handed, you probably hockey right-handed too.
Huh. Okay, almost a mirror image of the hockey finding.
Exactly. And then baseball, swinging an axe, that was totally opposite. Lined up with the whole power idea, dominant hand leading the way.
So we're seeing a pattern here. It really seems like hockey, with its need for both power and precision, that's what makes it unique.
I think so. It's not just about which hand is stronger, it's about how you use both hands together.
Really interesting stuff. And they even looked at footedness and eyedness too, right?
Yeah, figured those might tie in somehow.
What?
Turns out, very weak connections. Like being left-footed doesn't mean you'll swing a tennis racket a certain way.
So if it's not just basic body dominance, then what is it about hockey that's creating this preference?
That's the million-dollar question, and we're going to get into that right after the break. Yeah, it really does seem like, the more we dig into this, the more we realize how much more complicated it is than we thought.
Yeah, and all this talk about like hockey and golf and these different stances, it got me thinking about something I read a while back. There was this pro hockey player, left-handed shooter, but get this, he golfs right-handed.
Interesting.
Yeah, and his coaches, they thought it was going to be a problem,
Yeah.
Like messing up his coordination and everything.
Yeah, throwing him off balance.
Totally. But did it actually hold him back?
Nope, not at all. In fact, he became famous for these crazy deceptive shots, Opponents never knew which way he was going to go because he was so good at using both sides.
Wow, so what they thought was a weakness was actually like a superpower.
Pretty much, yeah. Shows you how sometimes breaking the mold can really pay off.
For sure, for sure. So zooming out a bit, back to those other things they looked at, the golf, the baseball, tools, what's the big takeaway there?
Well, we touched on it before, but I think that distinction between power and control is key. Imagine swinging a bat or chopping wood. It's all about force, right?
Yeah, pure power.
And your dominant hand, it just naturally takes over.
Takes charge.
But hockey, it's a different beast. You need the power for slap shots and stuff, but then there's all that finesse too.
All the delicate stuff.
Right. The stick handling, passing, those tiny wrist movements that make all the difference.
So it's finding that balance between the two, the brute force and the subtle stuff.
Exactly. Seems like a lot of players, they're prioritizing that control, even if it means maybe a little less power on the shot.
Makes you wonder, right? Especially with this study being done in Canada. Like we said before, hockey's practically in their DNA.
Oh, yeah, totally. It makes you think, could all that early exposure, all those years on the ice, could that actually be shaping their brains, their preferences for how to move?
Like almost subconsciously.
Yeah, maybe their brains are just wired for hockey from day one, and it even spills over into things like golf.
That's fascinating.
Right. And then you've got those weak connections they found with footedness and eyedness.
Like we were talking about before, didn't really seem to matter much for hockey.
Nope. It all points back to this idea that it's the task itself, the specific movements you need, that dictates how you use your body.
So it's not just about being left-handed or right-handed. It's much more nuanced than that.
Way more. It's like our brains, they're constantly adapting, figuring out the best way to get things done.
Especially when it comes to complex movements and sports and stuff.
For sure. And for athletes, for coaches, this research could be huge.
Huge how.
Well, if you understand that a player's natural stance might not match their dominant hand, that gives you a whole new insight into their strengths, their weaknesses.
You're not just looking at them as lefty or righty anymore.
Exactly. You're seeing the individual. Imagine tailoring training programs based on this, helping players really hone those natural abilities.
Unlocking potential that might have been missed before.
Exactly, yeah. This study, it's like a whole new way of looking at movement, at sport, at how adaptable our bodies really are.
This is mind-blowing stuff. I feel like we've only scratched the surface here, though.
Oh, absolutely. We've got to dive deeper into some of the bigger questions, the implications of all this, especially for athletes.
Okay, so we've seen how this research is totally changing how we think about handedness, especially in sports.
Yeah, it's like we've cracked a code,
Totally. A code that helps us understand athletic potential in a whole new way.
And like with any good code, once you crack it, you've got even more questions.
Right, like what?
Well, we've talked about how the demands of a certain task, like hockey with all its power and precision, can sometimes override those basic handedness preferences.
Yeah, it's not just about being left-handed or right-handed. It's about what the sport needs.
Exactly. But what if, and this is where it gets really interesting, what if this cross-lateral preference, what if it's not just a quirk? What if it actually gives players an advantage?
Okay, hold on. You're saying going against the grain could actually make you a better hockey player.
Think about it. If you're comfortable using both hands on the stick, you could switch shooting sides on a dime, total unpredictability.
Wow, yeah. Opponents wouldn't know what to expect.
Right, and it might not even stop there. This cross-lateral thing, it could mean a wider range of motion, quicker reflexes, better anticipation, who knows?
So it's like this hidden talent that could be making some players super adaptable.
Exactly. And imagine if we could actually measure that, quantify it.
Be huge for scouting, for training, everything.
Totally. Instead of just focusing on which hand is dominant, you could look for players who have this cross-lateral potential.
And then help them develop those skills, push those boundaries.
This study It gives us a whole new framework, a new way to see athleticism.
So it's not just about lefty versus righty anymore. It's about this whole other layer of skill.
And who knows how deep it goes? We could compare players with crossed and uncrossed preferences, see who performs better, analyze their movements, everything.
It'd be fascinating to see, like, the biomechanics, how their muscles are working differently, how they process the game.
It's really exciting. And it makes you think this could go way beyond hockey, right?
You mean like other sports?
Yeah, anything that needs that balance of power and precision, tennis, fencing, even surgery.
Wow, so this could be like a universal thing, this cross-lateral advantage.
Maybe we're just starting to scratch the surface here.
This is incredible. It feels like we've opened up this whole new world of questions.
And the answers can change everything about how we train athletes, how we identify talent, so much.
So, to everyone listening, next time you watch a game, any sport, really pay attention. Look for the players who are doing things differently, who move in a way you wouldn't expect.
Look for those cross-lateral athletes, the ones who seem to have an edge, an extra something special.
You might be witnessing the birth of a whole new kind of champion, athletes who are tapping into this hidden potential.
Well, and who knows, maybe you've got some ideas too. If there's a topic you're curious about, some question that's bugging you, send us your sources, your thoughts, anything.
We're here to dive deep, to explore, to learn together. So keep those minds open, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Science of Hockey. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share it with your friends, teammates, or anyone who loves hockey as much as you do. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment to let us know what you liked, what you'd like to hear next, or any questions you have. Your feedback helps us make the show even better. Until next time, keep your skates sharp, your mind open, and keep chasing the science behind the game.